Today, we're going to talk about how visionary companies disrupt entire industries and create a new future. Hello, my name is Jorge Lopez with Gartner, and we're here to talk about the visionary path to digital business transformation is through the development of digital business capabilities. We can provide top line as well as bottom line improvements by disrupting entire industries and creating new futures. So what is a digital business capability? The formal model we have at Gartner shows that there are four elements to the business model and four elements to the operating model of any business. In the very center in orange are the capabilities, which are crucially important because they are the foundation for the business model. They affect the value proposition, the customer, and the financial model. And they're also the place that channels the value streams, the governance, and the resources within the enterprise on an operating basis. And what this does is connects the operating model to the business model and is foundational. The examples that we'll be talking about today include Starlink's communications networks, fully automated mines, and robo-advisors. The question is, why is this important now? Well, here's an interesting slide for you. Here is the disruptive impact of a visionary company. We're talking here about SpaceX. SpaceX has been well known and documented for its ability to rapidly deploy some of the lowest cost rocketry in the world because of its reusability. The reusability comes because of their focus on using artificial intelligence, for example, to help land these complex and expensive rockets safely on autonomous ocean barges. And you have massive redundancy of rocket engines to help to reduce the risk. But you can see right here several things. One is that SpaceX is able to launch one flight a week now. But the main point here is take a look at the payload for the current Falcon 9 Heavy, which is 16 tons at a cost of $62 million. And then we have the SpaceX Starship, which is 100 and actually going to be closer to 150 tons at $2 million. They continue to make breakthroughs in overall cost, reaching productivity that is threatening essentially all the other players that are in the marketplace today. You can see that green line shows that they're now almost 10 times more rocket launches than anyone else right now that's in that industry. Let's also take a look at another company that gives you a sense of why it's so important to be visionary. And in this case, we're talking about what's happening to the cost and speed of mining critical materials. We're talking about the Syama mine, which is in West Africa. They've been able to reduce their costs 10% with a goal of reducing it overall 25% in 5 years. What the Syama mine does is essentially ensure that everything below the surface is fully autonomous, fully automated, and that people essentially can manage at the top management level above the ground everything that's going on underneath. Machines can deliver 22 hours of work versus human, which is about 15 hours per day. What we're seeing here is that by envisioning an entire way of doing work that essentially displaces the old ways of doing work with new ones that in fact are far more productive, are of enormous impact in moving forward. So what should we do about this? Well, here's what visionary companies do. And I have three examples. Now we're using a model that's really built upon a mountaintop model. So let's just go over that first. On the far right, you can see there's a mountaintop, and we have three examples, all delineated in different colors. We have a staging camp, which is before that. This says these are the capabilities that ultimately help to drive the mountaintop. And then we have the first base camp, which is used to drive the staging camp. Let's take a look then at the situation with SpaceX and what they've been doing. No secret that the founder of SpaceX, Elon Musk, he's intent on essentially establishing settlements on Mars. Now, to get there, what he needed to do was have let's call it a money pop, a source of funds that from an existing business that could actually finance that. So what he did was he created then Starlink. Starlink is in the neighborhood of 30,000 satellites, going to 40,000 satellites, we think, which will connect every single physical part of the Earth. Today, 40% of the world is unconnected to the internet, if you can believe that. And by the time Starlink is done, that number will drop closer to 10%. And the question really will become from a strategy perspective, and this is really for you all to consider, what will you do when you now have almost a third of the Earth connected to the internet that you didn't have before? What opportunities does it open up for you? What businesses will you build? Now, to be able to achieve that capability from Starlink, what SpaceX had to do was find how can we deliver these satellites up into space at a cost that's well below anything that's known today. And that led to the idea of the reusable rocket boosters and ultimately to SpaceX, which became now, as we showed earlier, the impact of this is really difficult to overstate because what it's done is redefine an entire industry. They're going to have entire rockets are going to be landing on the launch pad they started from using rocket engines that are capable of being reused within 1 hour after they land. This just is a completely different definition of what the world of space is going to be about. But it shows you, if you look at the process here, they're really thinking of the world in terms of what are we going to build that will then help us to power our next capability and our next business. And in each case, which is even more important, is the idea that they figured out a way to make each step monetizable. In wealth management, we also have seen this as well, in that we're looking at how, if I look to the far right, the mountaintop, where banking wants to get to is decentralized finance is essentially autonomous in nature. To be able to do that, they need to have technology which is actually quite well deployed at this point. It's robo-advisors. Robo-advisors are really designed to help you make your investment decisions. Today, robo-advisors are just at nearly $500 billion in assets under management, growing at 30% per year. So the expectations in the next 2 or 3 years will be at 1.2, 1.4 trillion in assets under management. Now, to get there, the first base camp was something that many of you have seen before, is investment tools. I mean, if I was to start out and say, if you ever use Quicken and use those tools to figure out, okay, when am I going to retire? What decision I need to make? This became then the foundation for what led to becoming robo-advisors, because now you had the tools available to build them. So here we have in wealth management showing how you can think about your business going forward. If you have a mountaintop that says, we want essentially our operations, our branches, our brokers, whatever, to be fully autonomous at some point, then what are the steps between now and there that can help us to ensure that we reach there with the full capabilities needed to be successful in it? And finally, that we have mining. Over the last decade and a half, they've proven to be one of the most sophisticated, technologically advanced industries in the world. If you started out with saying, okay, ultimately we want a fully autonomous mine. We want to have a place where we don't require people to do this anymore and run the whole mine. It could be an outdoor pit. Along the way, before you get to being fully autonomous, you're going to have something that's fully automated, and you're going to be leveraging a lot of vehicles that have the capabilities within them to move autonomously and to, say, drill holes, to haul materials, to even process within the mine some of the things that need to be pre-processed before they get put into a deeper processing. Caterpillar, working with BHP Billiton, developed the systems that were required to be put in place that then allowed these enormous vehicles to go without a driver and driving all day long right to the place where they need to be loaded, all the way back when you drop off and haul the materials, drop it off, and do that again all day long. That was the beginning of the steps for the fully autonomous mine. So where they are right now is a fully automated mine with reports that we have 2 fully autonomous mines that are now capable and deploying as we speak. But if you get the picture here, is ultimately Here's a way to conceptualize the future built upon technologies that in many cases are known today, but deployed in a way that provides significant competitive advantage, as well as the ability to drive revenues that fund then even more sophisticated and more profitable businesses later on. So we think about then this mountaintop base camp model. It comes down to some very essential capabilities for transformation. Transformation, as we all know, is large, it's hard and risky. What you need to be able to do is break it down into essential and monetizable base camp capabilities so you can make money on the way to transformation. So in conclusion, let me provide some recommendations here. The first is you need to pick a mountaintop vision. What capabilities will deliver the sort of our earnings growth that are meaningful results for your company? Not a simple thing. You want to get your senior management team together to consider what should that vision be. The next recommendation is take the long view, but capture short-term opportunities. Can we lay out a base camp on the way to the mountaintop where we can make money and grow and sort of solidify a platform of a position that can help us ensure the success of our longer-term vision, while also delivering some money along the way so that the business does not have to be waiting for revenues to be coming in, say, in 5 years or whatever. They'll be coming in within months or days. The third of four is take an industry view. Does your mountaintop vision put pressure on your competition to change the rules of competition? And can you compete on the speed of innovation? If we're seeing anything, we're seeing how this pressure to keep developing and improving is saying we need to compete on the speed of innovation to ensure that we're able to provide the sort of capabilities that will drive our competitive advantage into the future. And finally, and in conclusion, take a today view. What more can I do today to keep our project driving forward and growing? What is important now? If you take these into account, you'll find you'll be putting yourself in a place that leads to a leadership position in your industry. I'm Jorge Lopez, a Gartner. Thank you very much.